But why don't we start off on your thoughts? Like, what did you think of Dune Part Two that we just saw last night at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood
I know. What an experience to be there on a Friday night,
on
in a
IMAX,
packed theater.
70 millimeter IMAX
Yeah.
film projecting? Yeah, packed theater. All the Dune heads and Herbert fans are all there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And the new Worm popcorn bucket fans as well. I mean,
yeah,
we saw a bunch of
we
those.
saw
Yeah.
the infamous worm popcorn buckets. We did
Um,
not get them though. We just saw them, just to clarify for the listeners. But
Admit
yeah,
it, Alex, you wanted to get one. Admit
I,
it.
I I did. I wanted to get with one. I don't know if but
Oh
that's
gosh.
another podcast.
uh no, I love the movie. I think it was, I mean, I haven't read the books, so I'm obviously not coming to this with all the mythology and everything, but and I felt this way about the first one too, and now more so with this one, which is that to pack in so much of detail and storytelling and world building and create it with this in on this epic canvas, but yet grounded in emotionality, where you understand who these people are, what their motivations are and such. It's very hard to do. I don't think many people can do that actually.
Hmm.
So just for that, I just think the movie was absolutely epic. Like, all the technical tricks are on display. I think it's maybe up levels from what we saw in the first one.
Yeah.
And then often when these movie franchises on this canvas expand and like bring in new characters and new actors, it can be a bit of a hit or miss. And I thought that the cast that was assembled for this movie and the new people who joined, they were all fantastic. It sort of felt like these are movie stars who lend themselves to the movie, or I should say movie stars in the making that lend themselves to the movie, and the movie kind of gives it back to them and
Hmm.
propels them further. Like, it's very rare when you find people, the right people at the right time in their lives to kind of portray. And I think just I couldn't imagine, at least for me, anybody else. So that was amazing just to see. And then, yeah, I mean, the movie has a lot to say, that's the other thing. Like, you can pack in all the lore and the mythology, you can have great technical craftsmen and great performances, but the movie still has to kind of have something to say and hit
Hmm.
you, not over the head, at least for me, but like, be clear. And, you know, I got that ambiguity and that pain where, yes, we all have a little bit of gray in us, some more
Hmm.
dark, some more light. We are all challenged in some way or the other. And as the senior Reverend Mother says, there are no sides. Everybody is kind of in some sort of a plan, and they're trying to do their best, and they're paying the dues of their parents and how they shaped them, or whatever revenge event journey they were on, that's feeding us. And we are sometimes made to believe we are on the right path, but maybe in the grander scheme we are not. Or the
Hmm.
ones that visibly feel are totally wrong, they are also enslaved into something. I mean, maybe I shouldn't spoil this, but the way Stellan Skarsgård's character, like, whatever happens to that, it was kind of pitiful to watch
Mm.
what happens to that person, even though that person is horrible, and probably deserves, what happens. So, and maybe that sort of is the humanity of it all, right? That, yeah, it's dark, and but in some ways everybody's on the same plane and are, a victim to their own humanity, if you will.
Hmm. Yeah, their own material
Yeah.
and their own material conditions. So I never read the books either. The only experience I've had with Dune, other than the first Denny Dune film, was the Lynch Dune film, which I watched maybe 20 years ago, and that was
Uh-huh.
not a good movie. But that's all my understanding of the story. So I thought that this was more story than the first Dune. And I liked that there was more going on. That was a resolution that made more sense than in the first one. Definitely, I mean, it was a part one, so I don't want to knock it
Right.
too much for that. But I felt more there was a complete story here, and everything was dialed up a bit too. Like, it felt more epic to me,
Yeah.
this one than the first one. So I did like the movie. I liked it better than the first one, I think. And I think these two movies together are really a big positive mark in his filmography, Denny's filmography. I thought that yeah, like you said, the new characters coming in, especially Austin Butler, I think just did a phenomenal job in the
Mhm.
film. Zendaya also popped a lot
Yeah.
more. The first movie, I was disappointed that she wasn't in it very much,
Yeah.
which again, I get it was part one. But here I thought she carried a lot of these, especially the emotional scenes, the character that she plays and the relationship and how it changes with Timothy Chalamet's character over time. And it really kind of ends on her, and her story, I think, is actually, I'm now more interested in what happens with
Yeah,
her character and where that goes
me
than
too.
what's going on with Chalamet's character, who ends up, kind of turning out to be not who you thought he was,
Hmm.
essentially, which is cool and interesting. And I think again that fits back into the worldview of Denny of these messiahs can come down and they're not good, and you shouldn't be led by these people you think can give them all the answers. And that works with this story because maybe Frank Herbert had similar
Yeah.
political positions. Again, I'm not very, I don't want to speak about Frank Herbert or the Dune novels because I don't know a lot about them, but I think this material was a good fit for Denny's worldview in a way that it made sense to me as opposed to some of his other films. I also felt that the sense of scale in this, which was good in the first movie, was just up leveling more. I mean, the sequence of when Chalamet's character first was riding that sandworm was amazing and really
Pretty
did give me
epic.
that, like, oh my God, like I'm feeling this major moment in this film, and something that just, especially in 70 millimeter IMAX, is huge scale. It just, that moment really did enthrall me in a way that I've never felt from any of Denny's movies before. Of like, whoa, this is like a real epic, big moment. That's a character moment too, where now
Right.
you're seeing that Chalamet is really becoming the master, this messiah figure that the tribesmen think he is, because he's able to master the sandworm. So it like works with the
Mhm.
story, the character, the emotion, but then also just visually, I was something that I've never seen Denny pull off like that before. I was really impressed with that sequence.
And the sound like reverberating through, at least I felt it, like you're transported. And this is where kind of filmmaking, but also like using all the technical prowess of a good movie theater, which
Hmm.
just felt so on point to me, and not because, I mean, I don't want to knock Fast and Furious movies, but
Hmm.
this is to me like the right way to kind of use a good theater in all its aspects and to really make the audiences like feel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that roller coaster ride, quote unquote, feeling you want in a movie. But
Yeah.
for me, when that's done right, there's also like character in it too. It's not
Yes.
just totally visceral. And
Yep.
when directors, I mean, that's what makes Nolan, Cameron, Spielberg so amazing, because they can do both. And I
Yeah.
think Denny, for the first time, for me at least, proved he can do that with especially that sequence and the sequence at the end, the giant battle, which I was disappointed it was very fast. They could have like, this epic battle was starting, the sandworms are coming in and they're bending the bad guys, and all of a sudden they flash to like, okay, well now that the battle's over and we're gonna like have a personal, discussion with the Emperor. And that was disappointing a little bit, that I would have wanted
Mm,
more of like an action set piece on the same level as what we got with the sandworm piece. But and then I guess too, to get into some of the things that didn't really work for me, we talked about a little bit this last night after the film, but Chalamet is an actor who I don't like, and I've talked about that on the podcast I think before even. And I felt that he worked better in the first movie as like a snotty little rich kid who's sort of out of his element, and that was the character that he played. And then the character evolves into this like revolutionary leader slash messiah slash madman basically. And he honestly, it worked better than I thought, but I still feel like they could have picked somebody else for this role and it would have worked more. I felt Chalamet, especially in this movie, was getting swallowed up by the film, was bigger than
mm.
his performance. And he just, unlike a Zendaya or Austin Butler, who they popped off the screen, or God, Javier Bardem was so good in this.
He's so good.
So good. But I don't know. I think Chalamet kind of fell, just too small. I don't know. What were your thoughts? I know you like Chalamet more, at
Yeah.
least more than I do, but
Yeah, I like him. I thought he was very good, but I do agree with the swallowing of it, and to me that's less of a Chalamet thing, but more of a Denis thing. And this is my
mhm,
only sort of thing with the movie is that some of those mini or sometimes not many set pieces in the sand, maybe there's one too many of those. Like
mm,
I definitely felt myself like fidgeting in the seat, and I love the point you made that maybe we could have cut some of those and had maybe a more epic one in the
at the
end,
end,
perhaps.
yeah.
But I feel like we'd seen so much of kind of sand stuff and like Brolin's intro, like, did it really have to be that? When all those things appeared, I'm like, oh my gosh, here's another one. And then, okay, at least he came out. So, like, okay, great.
Hmm.
Okay. But so there's like a lot of that stuff. And Chalamet happens to be at the center of when these things are happening, right? So he's like
Hmm.
literally physically swallowed by all the things that are happening. So I think maybe that's why you feel how you feel. At
Mm,
least that's what I felt, that if we had like maybe a few less of those, he
mm.
would have popped more, because he really popped otherwise. Like I totally saw his kind of character arc, like he's sort of fighting all these other things and wants to be of the people, and then something turns. And the chemistry between him and Zendaya is amazing. I think they,
Really,
I
that
felt
didn't work
so.
for me actually. I didn't
Yeah.
feel it between them at all. The
But
love story
that's the
thing was
thing.
weird.
There's an undercurrent of something else. It's
Hmm.
not like you see that there is, they see each other, but this is not a selfless love forever. Like there's something missing. And I
Well, he
think
claimed
that
it
to me
was.
is the point, huh?
He claimed it was, but I know he lied to me
No,
like
but
three
even
times.
he's like, the way he says, I love you till there's breath in me. And she's like, yeah, I'll be there till you are the way you are now. They're
Mm.
conditions. So I think that's very well captured. And that sequence when they're sitting on a sand dune and sort of, kissing, and there's music, and it sort of felt like a very kind of classical movie scene with the
Hmm.
camera panning. It was beautiful. And so that was amazing. And then I have to say, we can't move off of Dune 2, at least for me, without mentioning the epic kind of sword, whatever battle, hand combat battle between Butler and Chalamet, which I thought
Ah,
was absolutely breathtaking. Like no music, the whole theater was it like you could hear a pin drop. It was amazing, and not just because of them, but just the way it's filmed and all the tension kind of getting to this point. And I thought that was amazing. I would rather see that as opposed to like another sunset piece, but that's just me.
yeah, yeah. And that was really cool, and I liked how the first movie ended with a knife fight that
Oh
he had to
yeah.
kill someone to then
Yeah.
ascend to the next level. And in the same way, this character, Shyamalan's character too, had to kill somebody in a knife fight to then ascend to another level. And I don't know if that's supposed to be you have to kill to move up, and death is needed for some sort of progression, or I don't know. That must mean something again in the Frank Herbert Dune,
Yeah.
what he's trying to say. But I liked that parallelness that both movies end just with a mano a mano knife fight.
Mm.
And you can also see Chalamet's progression too of why he's doing the fight, how he feels after the fight. I think in the first movie it was a little more remorse of he had to kill
Yeah.
this one of the Fremen who are the tribesmen to prove himself, and he kind of felt bad about it. And this one he's like, no, like I'm gonna just kill Austin Butler's character because I have to do this. And obviously Austin Butler's character is a bad guy, and the other
Yeah.
person wasn't. So I guess there are some differences there, but it really shows the character progression of this character through those fights. So I agree. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, overall liked the movie, liked it better than the first one. Wasn't blown away. It wasn't like most amazing movie I've ever seen, but definitely solid. And I will be interested in the third movie, which I think they're definitely going to be making at some point.
Yeah, I'm interested in that too, especially the way they've ended this one. I don't know what happens in the book, but it feels like it gets even more interesting, perhaps, especially with what happens with Zendaya, perhaps, and what
Hmm.
happens with Chalamet. So yeah, I'll be there for that. I liked it more than you did. I do think Dune 1 is, I love that maybe more than this. And
Mm.
some of that has to do with just the circumstance, because that was like the first kind of theater experience in the after or middle, whatever, of the pandemic, whatever word you want to attach there. I guess we were still
Hmm.
in it, but it
Yeah.
was just such a rousing experience to be in a packed theater and, watch this movie on the scale and epic proportion, but also complex storytelling that I knew nothing about, but was totally swept away with. And just also, it's a bit of a coming of age movie, right? Which I'm a sucker for. And also,
Right.
there's the diversity of landscape helps, I think, into the first one. Here, we are just in the sand, and I appreciate it sort of that there's like a lot happening. You're seeing a lot of the Atreides and the Harkonnens and all
Heart.
these.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that I enjoyed the world building and the setup part of that movie.
And it sounds like you are similar to Anakin Skywalker in that you don't like sand. I think this is a theme. You just sand is like you just
Maybe less, a
it
little
gets
too
everywhere,
much.
as
It
he
gets
says.
everywhere.
Hi there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I review a new release and then discuss 6 other movies made by that film's actor or director and how they shaped us. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.